Welcome to the Our Healing Journey with Metabolic Psychiatry podcast with Dyane and Michael. Remember, this is for information purposes only. Consult your medical provider for your individual needs. On with the show.
Hello there, Michael.
Hi, Dyane. How you
I'm
doing?
good. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, me too. And we're talking about
Yeah.
our podcast, Our Healing Journey with Metabolic Psychiatry. Say that 10 times fast.
Maybe in the
Yeah.
morning I could do it, but we should
Right.
probably say, what is metabolic psychiatry, right? Besides being a
Considering it's episode
mouthful.
number 1. Yeah. A lot of
Our
firsts.
very first episode. Metabolic psychiatry, it wasn't a part of my life until about a year and a half ago. And I found out about this psychiatrist named Dr. Shabani Sethi. And she works about an hour away from where I live here in Santa Cruz, California, at Stanford University. And she actually coined the term metabolic psychiatry. And I don't want to try to paraphrase it. In her own words, she says it's a subspecialty of psychiatry, and it's focused on targeting and treating metabolic dysfunction to improve mental health. And also she says that it's improvement of metabolic abnormalities, whether peripheral or central, in order to treat psychiatric illness. And when I heard her say that, I was like, well, what does that mean? What's peripheral and central? And all that means is central is the brain she's talking about, and peripheral is the other parts of our body besides the brain. So metabolic psychiatry.
Wait, so you're telling me that it's not about neurotransmitters and just meds for neurotransmitters? Of course, I'm being
It's a
silly.
whole
I
new
know that
world.
too.
It's a whole new field. It's in its very beginning stages, which makes it so exciting for anyone watching this to join us in
Right.
exploring. It's like Star Trek.
Right.
But it's not
Why us?
But you and I were both on episodes of a really amazing podcast called Bipolarcast with Dr. Iain, Campbell, and Matt Baszucki. And that was exploring using the ketogenic diet for bipolar disorder. So you and I both did our own separate shows. And then a few months ago, you and I met at the very first Metabolic Psychiatry conference, Ellenhorn, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You say that
That's right.
10 times fast.
We did a lived experience panel. We were speakers along with Carolyn. And we gave our experiences about having bipolar and living with it and healing from it using metabolic psychiatry, which at the time I didn't know that's what it was called. I learned about it through Bipolarcast, watching Dr. Iain Campbell and Matt Baszucki's podcast. I actually learned about this as a treatment, watching that podcast. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Me too. It was really the two of them. And then also one other person. I don't think I've told you about this. Her name's Julie Fast, and she's a best-selling author. But she started doing on Instagram videos about using the ketogenic diet for bipolar in fall of 2022. It's called Keto Bipolar. And so between Julie and Dr. Campbell and Matt, I was just like, what is this? And I found out about it through Google. All these people through Google. So, but it really started with the word keto for me. I don't know about you.
Well, I first started watching videos on, patient experiences, so you'd see other people with bipolar and they'd be explaining, what the illness is, from a patient perspective, because they don't always do a good job teaching you, the doctor about what it is. So you go home and go, what the heck do I have? And you study about it. So I watched patient perspectives first and somehow came across Iain and Matt's, Dr. Campbell and Matt Baszucki's podcast through that path from the patient perspective. I think I probably saw someone's interview, someone that was before us.
Right.
And if anybody wants to hear our longer story, we talk more about how debilitating the illness can be and how rough it was on our families and ourselves. And I had trouble the medication route. and that's a long story, but they could watch our episodes and find more about that because
That's right.
the cool thing is this is the healing journey. So we get to
That's
talk
right.
about the unique things that we go through using, diet and lifestyle changes and trying to minimize our stress and things like that. And all the other things in life that goes along with it, and the struggles. So it's kind of a going forward, story. So you're gonna
Exactly.
learn about it live. We're gonna talk
That's
about
right.
it
That's
because
right.
it's not
I
like
mean, not
you're healed, everything's great, yay!
right. No, no, I'm glad you pointed that out because you and I are definitely works in progress, and we're
Yep.
never going to be at the finish line, but we can certainly be closer to the finish line than we were a couple of years ago. And so can anybody watching this, or if you care about somebody and you want to turn them on to this, you and I are
Yeah.
here to help people, besides ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, for me, just real quick, I just wanted to say the only reason I found out about this whole thing was just the word keto. I just Googled keto and up came keto and bipolar, and I didn't know there was a connection.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And then, then I realized the ketogenic diet was part of metabolic psychiatry. They're entwined.
Right.
Metabolic, can I say that clearly? It's the greater field that encompasses ketogenic
Mhm.
diets and stuff like that.
Yep.
So,
Right. So let's pretend that somebody stumbles on this podcast for the first time and they don't even know what we're talking about. What's keto mean, for me? So I eat omnivore, mostly carnivore at this point. But I stay under 20 grams of carbs a day. And that's the number one thing that gives me, makes me feel better enough so I can do the other things like manage sleep, manage stress, daily living, things like that. And I manage my week. Like I eat it, I try to eat at the same time. I use intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, some people call it. Um, I don't do fast though. I know some people do.
right.
I haven't heard really anybody talk about metabolic psychiatry and fasting so much. Maybe time restricted eating comes up and keto certainly comes up, but I
Mhm.
don't know that I'm not an expert on that, obviously, because we're not doctors, but um, I don't know if that would be a trigger to push that hard on like a
Mhm.
72-hour fast. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't even want to tempt fate.
Yeah.
But how about
Well, I
you?
know,
What
I know
do
some
you?
people swear by it. I don't really, I did before I discovered keto. I did try the intermittent fasting for about a year, and I liked it, but then I got sick with a cold and I really craved soup during the day. And so then that went out the window. But basically, I mean, I kind of go through, like I'll have breakfast early in the morning and then I'll spend the whole day without any food, unless I'm really, really hungry, and then have something at night. So that's kind of a baby
Yeah,
fast, but it's not a deliberate thing for me. But I know a lot of people in the ketogenic world swear by it. So it's kind of an individual thing, right? But yeah, for you
yeah,
and me,
that's great.
it's not really the focus. But who knows? I mean, you and I might decide to try it at some point. Heck, I even know someone
Yeah,
who's into doing like extended water fasting. I don't think so for me, but who are we to judge as long as they're safe and feel good?
but
You
what
know.
does keto mean for your day? Like, give us an example. Like for someone that doesn't
Okay. Oh,
know, like what does it mean to eat keto? Like for
sure.
you.
Sure. Well, I needed some guides. I did hear that going under 20 net carbs a day was the golden rule for feeling, the benefits. So I started with that, but I've never professed to be a nutritionist or good at nutrition. I have a lot of room for improvement. So I found this app called Carb Manager. I don't know if you use apps to track, but basically it did the thinking for me, and I'd plug in my little foods, and it would tell me if I was getting enough protein and fats and carbs. Booyah. And it takes a
Right.
little extra time to do that, but for me, it made it real easy to see if I was doing it correctly. And then I also splurged and spent like $40 on a Keto Mojo blood ketone
Yep.
meter, where you prick your finger and you can see if you're in ketosis or not. I started out with the urine strips and graduated to that because I wanted to be more accurate. So that was fun for me because it made me feel good to reach goals and see them. Um, I know not everyone's wild about pricking their finger and getting blood out of it. So it's really
Yeah,
popular. I'm kind of surprised at how popular the thing is.
I
But
do the same.
do you use one also?
I have I have Keto Mojo as well, and I do
Oh,
ketones
cool.
and
That's cool.
glucose.
Yeah, I don't do the glucose yet. I probably should, but you know what I
I
mean?
was just interested in insulin resistance in general because a lot of the practitioners talk about and the scientists talk about how the insulin resistance is the driver of all the
Right.
problems because you're more insulin resistant and things just start not working as well, including
That's
your
right.
mental health.
Right.
so
Well,
so I
it
try to
was
keep my sugar under 100 fasting.
okay. See, I can learn from you. We can all learn from you with that because that's new territory for me. I have the strips there. I've
Yep.
just never gone out of my comfort zone yet, but maybe I'll try that and see. But yeah, it was just really crazy to feel results so quickly from going, suddenly lowering my carbohydrates to under 20. But I should say, like, I talked to my psychiatrist about it. He didn't know about the ketogenic
Right.
diet, but he thought it was okay. So he thought it was like the Mediterranean diet. So he said it was okay. I did become a little hypomanic the first few days,
Yeah.
which could have intensified. So when I look back at that, that's kind of scary. But that's another reason why you and I are doing this podcast to raise awareness that that's something that can happen.
That's why you need a
You know,
psychiatrist to do this if you have a serious mental illness like bipolar or
that's right.
schizophrenia. Like you
That's
don't
right.
wanna just tempt fate and say, "I'm gonna try it,"
Right.
because A,
Well, and
there's a
then
right way to do it, that
yes.
doesn't make you sick, and get the quote "carb flu," um, and also you don't wanna get in hypomania without a doctor being there for
Yeah.
you if you need them.
Yeah,
Did you crash
definitely.
after? 'Cause I don't know about people know about bipolar, but we go up and then we go down. So, like, you're up for a while, you don't sleep, you're energetic and happy mostly, and, then you crash, and then for
Oh
me, that
yeah.
lasts
No,
a lot
luckily,
longer.
thank God that didn't happen because I've been, as
Right.
I've gotten to become really good friends now. And I mean, I don't know everything about you, but we know some big things. And I've spent a lot of my life in depression, but luckily, once I started the keto thing, um, the hypomania just kind of melted away, and I became
Yep.
stable, and I had
I can say the
energy.
same.
And it's like when I hear myself say that, it's still like I'm just like, thank you, God, because so many other
Yeah.
times I didn't think there was any hope left at all.
Right,
So,
right.
so
But
if
I
I
didn't
sound,
crash either as far as I know.
I'm so glad you didn't crash.
Isn't that weird? Like, the only hypomania in history, that you probably ever had that you didn't crash after, it's because we were changing the way
Right.
we eat.
Well, there was another thing that actually Matt Baszucki, who, if you guys don't know who this guy is, he is really interesting to listen to. He's one of the hosts of Bipolarcast, and he talks a lot about this change of the seasons and how that would affect his mood. It was a really, really big deal for him, and he could easily go into mania. And I related to that because I would go through change of seasons, I become a little hypomanic too. So it was kind of, and when I started this, it was the change of the seasons. So it was kind of like a little bit even riskier. Um, but it worked out. And oh, one other thing I wanted to tell everyone is about the electrolytes, or maybe you could chime in about.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you start, you wanna be, using electrolytes a lot more than you would think, because, your salts when you start losing all that fluid, because you lose weight, everybody knows when you lose weight, you lose, water, right? It doesn't matter what diet you do, that's the first thing that goes, but that's not any different with when you're changing from eating carbs to eating fat instead. And so stuff starts flowing and you need to add that salt back in and magnesium and potassium and that you just do electrolytes. There's a couple different companies. You can do Gatorade Zero and Slum It, it works.
Gatorade Zero, stay away from. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that another
No,
time. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, those are the regular Gatorade.
I know, I'm just kidding. I was really thirsty those first couple weeks, like
Yeah.
super thirsty, and I had to be careful too because I take lithium. So I remember that,
Mhm.
but I also kind of liked it because I felt like, whoa, something's happening, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just really trippy and really cool to feel,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
change going in the right direction instead of the wrong
Yeah, I'd say,
direction.
like, every month, like, about the first month, I felt way better. It was like, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable." It was, like, 80% better. And then I'd say, like, every month from then on until probably 6 months in, I felt another change. And I'm at the point now where I don't feel those changes every month anymore as easily. I used to be able to know, like, "Oh, I'm swinging up or I'm swinging down," and they kinda collapsed, like, they weren't as intense. But now I have to actually look back and go, "Oh, maybe I was cycling a little bit." Like, I actually have to think about, what was I thinking about the past 2 weeks, or, how easy it is to be productive at work all day, like, things like that, but I have to look back now. So, I'm looking forward every month to get a little bit stronger, a little bit
I don't know if
healthier,
this
you
relates
know?
to what you were talking about. Like I've never done that. I just do Carb Manager app to track,
Yeah.
but that's something some people might want to do if it helps them kind of get a handle on what's going on and they can show their psychiatrist. Another thing I wish you and I had at the very beginning was the Metabolic Mind website, which we'll put in
Yeah.
the show notes. That thing is
Yep.
like the gold mine for anyone remotely interested in pursuing this or researching it. It's like this is so
Absolutely.
cheesy sounding. We can make a song out of it. It's a one stop shopping place, everything you could ever want to know.
Right,
So
including a link to Georgia Eads site, which has a practitioner directory, which is amazing because it's like, what doctor am I gonna find that actually is gonna help me with this? And I found mine through circuitous route through her site,
that's right.
Dr. Georgia
That's right.
Eads site. Um,
Yeah, we'll
it's,
put it down and it's growing every
Diagnosis
day.
Diet, is that the one?
Diagnosis
Is that
diet. Yeah, that's it. That's
Diagnosis
it.
Diet, yeah.
Yeah, that is
Um,
the place, not just doctors, but she has also, nutritionists, health
mhm,
coaches, um, nurse practitioners from all over the world, and it has a search function. So there's still, we still need a lot more people on there, but it's growing.
right.
It's every time I look at it, there's more names on there. So
Be examples of, like, this isn't a fad, this isn't something that we're gonna do for, 6 months and can't maintain. This is a way of life, and it's a happy one, and I
that's right.
think that's the example we wanna set. But the way everyone else, doctors out there are gonna be able to use this and learn about it, and is through studies. They're doing studies
Right, right.
now.
Well, so far, there's been two really significant pilot studies. Now, that's not the same as what is needed. The what's the word? The most convincing kind of study for psychiatrists and other professionals to examine is called the randomized control trial, which is also known as the RCT. But the good news is these two pilot studies or trials had amazing results. They were done very thoroughly, and the one of them was just presented at the International Society for Bipolar Disorders conference in Chicago last year. And from what I heard, because I stay in touch with this community, like a lot of psychiatrists were blown away by the results and they started to take this seriously.
Yeah,
So there's a sea change happening. The other pilot study was done at Stanford, which has a really great reputation. So, and then there's more studies going on, like 5 around the world, like in Australia, Scotland, a few in the
mhm,
United States. So I wanted to share one cool thing. Each podcast, we're going to share one cool thing. And this lady is so cool. She's frozen. Her name is Violet Riviera, and she has a podcast called The Road to Health Keto Done Right. And it's on YouTube. And she is a wonderful, brilliant, inspiring beacon of hope and information. She also offers something called the Wellness Warrior Community. And I'll just end this cool thing by saying the website. It's www.wellnesssquad.org. And Wellness Squad has 3 S's: WELLNESSSQUAD.org.
yeah,
Yeah,
and also just just came out on was it Road to Health
the
is the
road to
name of the
health.
channel, I
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
Um, yep, one Diane was interviewed.
Not just me, you've been on it too. We both are
Uh,
podcast junkies, right?
that's right.
So, um, Violet is an extraordinary
Yeah, she's
person.
amazing.
So we both, in fact, I was so impressed by her, I became a wellness warrior myself. So.
My cool thing is, I was talking about how early on, I liked watching patient perspectives, right? To learn, I did it for ADHD first and then did it for bipolar after, right? I loved watching other people talk about how and what, these different things are. So the one I've been watching lately is in the carnivore community, and it is, Bill from Alaska. Bill Nott, Nott, I believe, and I think if you search Bill in Alaska or Bill Nott, you'll get him, but he is an amazing gentleman, also a musician, and he's healing through, carnivore, which is a similar modality to keto because it's mostly keto, but not specifically keto, like, he doesn't eat high fat on purpose, but a lot of the principles are the same, like, he's helping his inflammation, he's losing weight, and he's just getting healthy, the brain's coming online just like for keto, and I just love watching his stories, and just the coolest guy. So, search him out, and we'll put a link in the thing to Bill's channel. But it makes me feel good after I watch his experiences. That's just how I can say it. Yeah, and we could kinda talk through, the different speakers that what do you think? We'll talk no, like, talk about the
Yeah,
different presenters that were there, and, yeah, let's do that.
yeah.
Alright, so
Yes. This was with Dr. Guido Frank. He is a psychiatrist down at UC San Diego. So, yeah, this psychiatrist there, his name is Dr. Guido Frank, and he presented the study that he's doing. It's the first clinical trial using the ketogenic diet for anorexia nervosa. So, that is really exciting. I wasn't even aware that keto was being used for this illness. So we learned about he lectured at the conference, and we learned a little bit about that.
yeah, that was amazing to learn that you can treat something as I don't know, sensitive as an eating disorder, if that's the right way to say it, with
Hmm.
eating. It, like, almost
Yeah,
sounds like, "Yeah, of course," but that's not a thought that anybody's had. You know what I mean? Like, it's the opposite.
right.
It's like, "Oh, well, you can't go on a restricted diet. It might actually be harmful to a patient that has, problems
Exactly.
already stressed about eating." But it's the opposite. It's
That's right.
actually once they start eating properly, the healing begins and the illness subsides.
That's exactly right. I mean, yeah, it does sound I don't counterintuitive or something like that, but they were already able to prove what you just talked about, like that. Yeah, by completely changing the way that these patients ate, it somehow fixed their metabolism in an emotional and physical way. So it's great because
Yeah,
this is such a devastating disease. I have two teenage daughters, and I've, been exposed to certain struggles of their friends and things like that. And
right.
it's wonderful progress.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Guido Frank. Alright, so let's go to another speaker we had was Ignacio Quaranta. Now he's from Argentina, and he was amazing. You
Argentina.
remember Dr. Quaranta?
Um, he was really fascinating. I mean, first of all, it's always impressive to listen to a psychiatrist who's speaking in a non-native language. He speaks at least two languages, but he was also like just really sensitive, and he wasn't just your typical psychiatrist. Like, he used beautiful images that were very poetic, and he highlighted nature, images from nature, like butterflies and the seasons. And don't get me wrong, this guy knows his stuff. In fact, can you explain a little bit about what his emphasis
Yeah,
was?
like, his talk, I think it was the first one we saw, first or second,
I
and
think
I
one
was
of
just
them, yeah.
blown away because my whole week, like, I manage every day. I try to get up at the same time, go to work at the same time, I have lunch at the same time if I even eat lunch. It might be at 3:30. Because I do the same thing where I do time restricted eating, but I only eat when I'm hungry. That's what I mean by the same. Like if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. If I'm hungry, I eat. And it's that simple. Because when you're not eating carbs as you're in a heavy way, you don't have those cravings to eat again 2 hours after you ate, or even right after. So my week, it's like literally trying to minimize stress by having, some repeatability with my day. When do you go to sleep? When do you shut your phone off? When do you spend time with family and things like that? And that's what he talked about. And he gave a cool tip that I'm going to tell you. Um, in the morning, you want to get sun in your eyes. A lot of people know that. And it helps make melatonin 12 hours later. What he told me, which is like world breaking news, is this is Dr. Quaranta. Get outside and see the sun go down, and it will help your night rhythm in a big way, because we are meant to be being outside, seeing the sun, getting it's vitamin D, in you, and the signaling for your melatonin for sleeping that night. And the dusk thing was the cool tip. And I forget. I bought an app to tell me like when the sunset was, so I would be reminded to go outside, but I still forget. But it's what an awesome tip.
That is so cool, and I never had heard that either with the dusk, and I'm just wondering, like, what happens if you can't actually see the sun go down? Like, you can see the sky dim, but you know what I mean? Like, if your
Yeah.
view is blocked, or what do you do?
I'm
I don't
sure,
know.
the in our evolution, we had, clouds then too, so I'm sure it's, an average, but I thought
Yeah.
that was the coolest tip, just so like,
Huh.
"Oh, yeah." And it really does help.
I'm gonna try that because, yeah, I really I wanna, like, next time we meet, maybe we can check in about that. I should write that down and see if that's
Sure.
helping.
Yeah,
You know what? Let me write that down. If I don't know about you, but if I don't write things down, it's not the greatest. Oh, here we go. Perfect. In fact, this reminds me of Argentina. Look at that. Beautiful.
there you go.
So good. Okay,
Alright, so let's go to the next
moving
slide.
right along.
Now
Tell me where to begin. This is like one of the Mount Everests of metabolic psychiatry, Dr. Georgia Ede. Um, she's a pioneer. She's worked with Dr. Shabani Sethi and Dr. Chris Palmer, who we'll get into. She's worked with all the greats, and she's been doing this a long time. And she is coming out with a book. Of course, am I going to remember the title? Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. Is that
that's
right,
it.
Michael?
Yes, and it's out next
Yay!
Friday as we record this, so it's a week away. We're recording on a Friday night, and I think it's a week away on a Friday.
She's just brilliant, and yes, it's perfect timing, for our podcast to talk about her because she has a wealth of information on the internet. She writes a column for Psychology Today, and actually, she did write a great article that helped me. It was about like if you take medications, how you can incorporate that safely with doing a ketogenic diet. So maybe we could put a link to that later. It's just really simple
Sure.
article.
And she has
What is
training.
she?
She trains clinicians. She
Okay.
trains clinicians too. She does it
That's
all.
right. She has a
It's great.
very she does it all, and she's really humble too. She doesn't have like that chip on the shoulder that
Yeah,
some psychiatrists have. I won't name any names, but I just like it was really fun to meet her in person because she's really human and personable. So I enjoyed meeting her, and she even brought her mom. It was her mom's first time seeing her daughter speak at a conference. I thought that was really cool because she lives there. She lives there in Cambridge. But yeah, there's some other doctors you and I are going to talk about who are also amazing. But she's just one of the top
what
people.
I loved about her talk was when she brought up a slide that had an oil refinery kinda look, but it was for food,
Oh yeah,
like so-called seed oil, refinery, and it's an oil refinery. I mean, it literally, it's like motor oil. They have to bleach it and it's awful. Like, we eat that. Well, I don't anymore, but
Yeah.
That was the big money shot in her presentation. I love that. I just the whole place was laughing
Yeah.
when she brought that up. But it was real. It was a
Yeah.
real food, an oil manufacturing place. She wasn't exaggerating at all.
I
We could
know.
get on a soapbox, so let's go to the next one.
Okay, yeah, who's the
Alright,
next
so
one?
now
Oh,
we got
okay.
Dr. Chris Palmer. Now he's the man, right? You were talking about we're gonna have some big hitters. Dr.
Yeah,
Palmer, he
yeah.
wrote a book, Brain Energy, amazing book. Read it twice.
Brain energy.
Awesome. Wow, what a force. If you followed this at all, I'm sure you've seen Dr. Palmer and just how eloquent he speaks about it and passionate, and, he's one of the early, people to help someone with schizophrenia. His patient,
Oh, right.
wanted to lose weight, and he's like, "Well, sure, I did this, Atkins kinda thing," and you'll have to look Dr. Palmer up and watch interviews with him and lectures, but basically his symptoms started going away. And it's like wow.
That's right.
And he
That's right.
and Matt Baszucki's mom had found him through a bunch of searches to try to figure out how can we help, and that's the connection that brought us all in, like we heard about it on the Bipolarcast. That's through Matt getting help with mom's help, Jen, um,
Mhm.
Ellison Baszucki, through Dr. Palmer. So
That's right. I forgot about that. Like, yeah, in fact, Dr. Palmer's on Bipolarcast, and that's definitely one to watch. That
yeah,
just sums up everything for you in a really interesting way. And he does talk about the famous case study he witnessed, that's what convinced him that there was something going on with the ketogenic diet, and then the greater field of metabolic psychiatry. And he's unique because he's put himself under the not sure what the phrase is, but he's faced a lot of skepticism and opposition from a lot of heavy hitters in the pharmaceutical industry and different universities, you name it. And he is able to explain how this all works without batting an eyelash. He just believes in it so passionately
right,
that it truly works, and that he doesn't claim that it's going to work for every single person, and he's very realistic, but he's very dedicated to helping people and letting people know this is an option, and it's not in lieu of medication all the time. It's something, an add-on, like I do. It can go both ways. Some people can taper off their meds, or stay on meds and still reap the benefits. So yeah, the guy's
mhm.
brilliant. What can I say? When I heard him speak
Thank
at the
you, Dr.
conference, I'm like,
Palmer, for all you
okay,
did because
yes, thank you for what you do,
we
and thanks,
we
because
benefit
it's
direct.
not easy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't envy him that, because
yeah.
he deals with a lot of haters. I'll just be blunt about it, since this is our podcast. He has a lot of people coming after him. So
He's really
just
good though
luckily
about being on the media outlets. I think, I mean, he comes
yeah,
he has a very clear, like you said, he has a clear message and he can explain it up and down, backwards and forth. So when I watch him online, I see him smiling saying, "I'm getting this out. I'm gonna help someone." You can just see it.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah. No, I think you're right. He gets enough success stories that keep him going. Because, like, and if you want to get to know
Yeah.
him, like, the best way is to go on Twitter. He's on Twitter, and he actually responds to a lot of people. It's kind of like his
Oh, great.
I don't know, his way of interacting with the public. I mean, obviously he can't do it all day because he takes care of himself. He exercises. He uses a light when he travels. He told me, because I was kind of worried when I went from
Mhm.
California to Boston that the jet lag would mess me up, and I asked him for advice on Twitter. He answered on Twitter, "Bring a sunlight light."
Wow.
And luckily I was okay. I'll be honest, I didn't bring the sunlight, but I was okay. So yeah, so that's another person to follow and to get to know his work if you haven't gotten it,
Yeah.
into it yet.
And the
So
book Brain Energy is a great book.
It talks about, like, the science behind why ketogenic diets work. It's not really about the keto diet. He always likes to say that, like, it's not a how-to keto book, there's other books for that, but it's for the people who wanna know what's going on, you know, why, how. That's what he analyzes,
Right.
brain energy, and you can get it at a lot of libraries too. I think a lot of libraries
Mhm.
bought it, so
Yep.
yeah.
Dr. Matthew
Dr.
Bernstein. Do you want me to take this one?
Bernstein. Oh, yeah.
Now I know him very well because I, found him online through Dr. Georgia Ead's site and, or some circuitous route through there, and he wasn't taking patients at the time. I bugged him for months and months and months. "When can I ask you again? When can I ask you again?" And he finally took me, and it was good because I was probably at my lowest, and, within a month or 2, we did some prep, we did some blood tests, but he's basically my psychiatrist, and, he put on the conference that we just had. It was the from Ellen Horn. He and Gabe and the team put the conference on. Excellent
Mhm.
conference. And his topic
That's right.
was, about gut health and the you can see it on the screen, the microbiota gut-brain axis, the power of plants, protein, muscle, and more. Um, it's just another link in the we eat food and, get nutrition from the and energy from the food, or we get the opposite. And, and your your gut-brain axis is part of that whole equation and the communication.
It was
Yeah.
the kind of lecture, like, I just wanted to read about it more. It was, like, so much information, you know what I mean? So it's worth I mean, it would be
Right.
great if he wrote a book about it. Maybe he will, or maybe someone else has, I don't know. But yeah, he was great. And also, one more thing about him, I was so impressed with you before I met you in person, Michael, like the fact that you persevered after Dr. Bernstein wanting to be his patient, and he told you no, and then you said, "Well, when can I ask you again?" Which it was such a smart thing to
Yeah.
ask, because and if you didn't, and you had to say that a couple times, I think, and he
Eh,
saw that
4 or
you
5
really
months in
wanted
a
to
row,
be
yeah.
his patient. Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable that you were able to do that when you were still, like, suffering and stuff, so it just goes to show,
Yeah.
it's just really amazing. I'm really glad you did that.
Yeah, me too. And the other thing about, Dr. Bernstein is he was interviewed on Metabolic Mind. So if you're interested,
That's right.
in his approach and what he has to say, go to Metabolic Mind, which we'll link in the thing, and, we'll link to some of these, the episodes, 'cause Dr. Eid has been on there many times. Um,
That's
so we
right,
yeah, we'll
yeah.
link to all that stuff below.
Dr. Schur, well, first of all, he's the director of Metabolic Mind, and his background is he's a cardiologist, and I still can't tell you what FACC means, but it's very impressive. That's all I know. And he's another
Mhm.
brilliant guy and very passionate. You know, they hired him to direct Metabolic Mind. They wanted someone who could explain these terminologies and concepts in layman's terms and not dumb it down, but make it so that we could understand how it works and what we can do and everything. And he's a great speaker. In fact, I asked him for advice on how to speak at the conference because he was so good on stage, like you, Michael. May I
Yeah.
add? And just very really really sharp guy. I kind of like this whole thing was about heart health, and because there's a lot of myths out there lately about how ketosis and ketogenic diet can be dangerous for the heart. So his lecture kind of dispelled a lot of the myths in detail.
Dr. Schur is amazing as a communicator, like you said, and he comes from Diet Doctor, before Metabolic Mind,
Oh, right.
and the reason it's so great that it's Dr. Schur that's doing this is because he's a cardiologist, like you just said. So everyone's afraid, like, "If I eat too much meat, am I gonna have a heart attack and die?" And you just need to watch Dr. Schur talk, about heart health, and in the Metabolic Mind, there's lots and lots of videos about cholesterol or about, heart risks and things like that, and he's a serious doctor, you know what I mean? Like, all of the everybody that we've talked about so far is. And it's just great that he's a cardiologist because he can
Yeah.
stand in there and explain why it's okay, and it's just great, and it's very reassuring. The final presenter besides us is Beth Zupakania, RDN CD.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Beth has worked closely with Denise Potter, who does very similar job. Ketogenic specialists, and they both worked for many years with the Charlie Foundation. And the Charlie Foundation focuses on epilepsy. A lot of it is pediatric epilepsy and using the ketogenic diet. So they've been doing it. Beth and Denise have been working with them for, I'd say, at least 20 years, maybe more, maybe 25 years. And
That's right.
just like on a side note, this is something that it always just amazes me, because the ketogenic diet's been shown or has been used effectively with epilepsy for over 100 years now. And because epilepsy and bipolar disorder share some of the same medications, that was one of the reasons to people, psychiatrists and researchers felt it was worthwhile to study ketogenic diets for bipolar disorder. In fact, I took some of the same medications for epilepsy. Of course, now I can't remember what they are because I kind of want to block that out. But anyway, that was really cool, because there's been a really great track record, and the ketogenic diet even like helped some children, like they cured them. I mean, it totally cured them. So there's absolutely no doubt about it.
And along with the Charlie Foundation, there's the movie that they made.
No, I'll help you. It's called, well, the movie they did, which I haven't seen yet. It's called First Do No Harm, with Meryl Streep, and she became a spokesperson
That's right.
for the Charlie Foundation. But yeah, it's Charlie. That's right. There's Jim Abrams. I think his wife. I'm not sure if it's
That's right.
Nancy or what, but they formed a nonprofit down in L.A., which is where I grew up. They actually it's literally like housed in the same city that I was born, Santa Monica. Their office, and their son Charlie, like, was they used the ketogenic diet with him, and he's now in his, I want to say, late 20s, possibly early 30s, but it completely cured him using the ketogenic diet. So they wanted to, his dad was a movie producer, and they wanted to help other people. So but the reason I bring all that stuff up is because they had this woman, Beth Zupakania. She's on staff with them, or she's worked really closely with them, and a lot of her stuff is on their website, Charlie Foundation, which we'll put on this. I'm sure you and I can put that in our show notes too,
Yep.
because even though it focuses on epilepsy, a lot of the information in there, you can use it for mental illness too. Like I've referred to it many times.
Mhm.
It has all the different forms of the ketogenic diet. There's, I think, at least five, and then there's more than five actually, but it has the five main ones. So yeah, Beth knows her stuff. She was a
Yeah.
great presenter.
Yeah, she talked about the history of epilepsy and the treatments, and, she also talked about how they do keto as they have, like, they do ratios, so, like, they'll step the ratio up or down depending on, like, where they are in their therapy. So they might start light and then step up, where basically the higher the ratio, the more fat you're eating, to carb
Right.
ratio. That was really interesting to watch, and I just wanna say that you want to do this with a psychiatrist if you have a serious mental illness that you're trying to help, but you want to do it with a nutritionist if you can too, because they're going to help you navigate how to eat in this new way, and you can be sure and be confident that you're going to do it in a healthy way. So that's very, very highly
Exactly.
recommended.
It is. I know, like, a
Yep.
lot of people say they don't have money for this, and I have a couple suggestions, because I'm on a super tight budget, and I suggest, like, asking if there's a sliding scale. I know it takes sometimes it's hard to do that, but you have nothing to lose by asking. Also, sometimes they have trainees or interns who can guide you. You can say, like, "Oh, do you have someone who?" Yeah, I mean, you don't want someone who doesn't know what they're doing, right? But there's that.
Right.
You can also ask people to give it to you as a gift if you have a birthday coming up, or holiday. Um, just say, like, how important it is to you to get this. Would mean more to you than, you know a ring or whatever. So there's ways you can try, but I don't know,
Sure.
or guitar, ha ha ha. But it's so worth it. Like, I just did a one-time consult with Denise Potter, but it really helped, and I got a lot of information in just an hour from her, and it gave me confidence that, because was doing this a little bit differently than some people. I do a vegan form of the ketogenic diet, which we can discuss at a later episode. But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing anything really stupid, since nutrition has never been my strong point. So it was really helpful. But I still have a lot to learn, and you can help.
Right.
I learn stuff from you all the time,
I hope
Michael.
so.
Yeah,
Cool.
found friends.
The last part of the conference was us. So what do we wanna say about
That's
when,
right.
I got to go up there. I can give a 30-second, like, I basically talked about how hard life was before and how I failed on the medications. The medications did not work for me for several reasons. One, eyesight. I lost eyesight, towards the end when it was really getting bad, and you can only imagine how stressful that is, which adds to the whole thing because the more stressed you are, the more sick you are. Like, it all feeds on the same levers. But the good news is you can pull on those levers the other way too, and they start helping. So you can start working on trying to not let stress bother you, things like that. And the levers will come back the other way. So that's the good news.
Yeah, you were awesome. You went first, which took guts, and you were funny, but then you were also serious. Like I started to tear up, You were just the right mix of funny and serious, And I think everyone, like, you definitely impressed the crowd, and that wasn't an easy crowd to talk to. Like, a bunch of psychiatrists and psychiatric nurses and stuff. Oh
Yeah.
God. But my thing is, like, it was amazing that I even got there from California, and that I give keto the credit for, because I had been terrified of flying by myself, and I was
Yeah.
terrified of public speaking and having the energy just to do all that. And because of keto, I was able to do it. So it wasn't so much what I said or didn't say; it was just the fact that I got there and met you and enjoyed meeting some of these bigwigs, and I even got to walk around Harvard
It
a
was
little
pretty
bit.
it was pretty
Beautiful
fantastic,
time of year.
meeting all these
Yeah,
people that I had seen on YouTube
yeah,
or communicated by email and, but it was life-changing, and I'm glad we did it for so many reasons.
yep, yeah.
Um,
And we're hoping we'll go to more conferences, and then we can
right.
do like a remote podcast and share what we learn with you guys, with y'all.
That's right. Yep, yep, and I'm sure that there's gonna be plenty more coming up that we're gonna be.
Oh yeah. Oh, there are. It's like there's a whole bunch of conferences coming up.
Right.
But I'm hoping there's going to be one in Hawaii or New Zealand, or
Oh, there
those,
you go.
or London, and I'm so there. I'll swim. I'll swim across the ocean if I have to. But yeah, this is just like, it's just a huge field, and there's lots of cool things. We're only beginning to learn about it, so we can just bring whatever we learn here,
Right.
and maybe and start with the basics for those who don't, are like, what do I do? I mean,
Yeah.
Metabolic Mind, it has like how to talk to your doctor,
Right.
what should you be worried about? Like, it just has everything pretty much.
Right, and there's
It does everything for you, but eat the food.
but there's so many challenges in life, like, in your regular doctor, you go for a visit about something, and they're like, "Okay,
Mhm.
have this medicine or do this," and you're like, "Yeah, but that's a bottle of sugar." Like, there's so many things we can talk about in the future, but I was hoping that by talking about the conference that we went to and kinda bringing up the different doctors, people would get to see the different elements that go into the metabolic psychiatry. It's not just keto. It's so many things like Dr.
Right.
Quaranta with the circadian rhythm. We had Dr. Bernstein talk about the gut health. We had the epilepsy tie-in with the treatment, for why keto, and how they have been using keto um, for epilepsy, like you said, like for children, and how successful that's
Right.
been. So I'm hoping that that was a good sample of different doctors and different things. Dr. Schur, the cardiologist at the Metabolic Mind, send them there. Dr. Palmer, get his book. Dr. Georgia Eid with her directory, and she also trains clinicians and she practices, as far as I know, too. So she's just got so much going on, but they're all like that. And Dr. Guido Frank with the anorexia. Wow, wasn't that a surprise? Like to to see
Mm-hmm.
the efforts in that area, and that it's actually promising, and helpful.
There's, you just made me think of one more thing that wasn't at the conference. He wasn't able to go, but I've been in touch with one of our future guests, Dr. Dominic DeAgostino, who you
Ah,
guys will all meet in a few months. And one of his major expertise is ketogenic diet and cancer, and he's been
right.
studying it a really long time. So I know that's not quite under our podcast topics and stuff, but still, that's like something that so many people are affected
Yeah,
by. So when we bring him on with his co-hosts from his podcast, we can always have him speak to that a little bit, because doesn't it,
right.
I mean, both of my grandmothers died of cancer, and I know people, I've lost some friends to cancer and stuff. So I'm curious about the ketogenic diet with that as
Right.
well.
It touches
So
everyone. You,
yeah,
you,
unfortunately.
yeah, but that's great, and
Yeah.
that's a good segue to say that, there's lots of interviews already scheduled. Like this, that we wanted to do this first one to just kind of have fun, talk about the conference, and kind of define what is metabolic psychiatry. You mean keto? No, it means all of this stuff, like the brain energy, the gut health, all that stuff. So we just look forward to delving into this and our healing journey as we basically navigate life with these difficult illnesses, and the treatment that we really believe in because it's working. And I know personally, I want to be an example. I do this for the other patients. I'm lucky enough to go to some support groups, and there's one regular that I go to, that I've kind of stuck with, and I've been to a bunch, but I do this for those people, and I want to be an example, you know. And when they're ready, they'll want to learn about it, and then this information will be out there.
I'm just so honored you asked me to do this podcast with you, and you inspire me. And it's life is always going to be challenging. It just will. So if we can all kind of create a foundation that's going to help us through the harder times,
Yeah.
and help each other, and encourage each other, then we'll be able to get through those hard times more easily.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's
Because
like a bank account.
we went through a lot, with our family, put our families through a lot, through you can say it's the illness, but it's you too, it's me too. You know what I mean? Like I did it while I was sick,
Yeah.
but I did it. Um, so you got to put those things back together. And those are the kind of things we can talk about, occasionally. And when the different guests come on, and we can fit it all in. And I
Yeah.
hope everybody's out there and wants to join us and subscribe and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Please subscribe, right? Subscribe and like and share. If you have social media, we'd be so grateful to you for your support, so we can really get this off the ground. And Michael and I talked about it, and we are not going to reveal our next guest's
mm,
identity, but the person is very, very special. And please stay tuned, and
sneaky and
please
coy
make
of
sure
us.
you watch the next show.
Yeah,
Why
I
not?
think they need to tune in. So, I think what we talked about, maybe we'll do this once a month, so, and put more content into that month. I look forward to seeing everybody next month.
That's right. Me too.
So where are
Thank
the
you so much
socials?
for
I
watching.
don't have any, but what are we gonna do for socials? Where are they gonna tune into us at?
Well, I talked about I think I'll create an Instagram account. Just give me a few days. Our healing journey with metabolic psychiatry, and Twitter. Why not?
Right.
Why not? I don't have Facebook, so stay away from the Facebook.
What's
So
your Twitter
I think
slash
those
X
two are good.
handle if people wanna follow you
Oh,
on Twitter?
just for me. Oh,
Yeah,
it's just my name. It's just the ad, and then Diane Harwood. We'll put it in the show notes too.
cool. And I do YouTube
Yeah,
for fun if anybody wants to see me goof around on guitar, but that's about it.
that's right. What's the name of the channel again?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Mike
that's right. Michael B.
Michael B.
Live.
Michael B. Live. Yeah, he
Yeah.
pops on. You never know. He'll just pop on and play a few minutes. It's fun to listen to. I like the surprise element of it. So, but yeah, this has been great. This has been really great.
So
Sorry.
no, that's
I
great. So thank you,
Yep.
Diane. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.